So I'm just going to read and comment on Romans chapter 5, verse 9 through, we'll see how far we get. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. This is how he does it. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Okay, so verse 9 or verse 8 talks about while we were sinners, before we got saved, right? Well, since we have now been justified by his blood, now this is for believers, since we have now been justified by his blood, and the word justified there is a Greek word that means made holy, made righteous. Since we have now been justified by his blood, when we got born again, when we asked Jesus to save us, how much more shall we be saved from God's wrath through him? And those Greek words, right, for how much more means, without going into all the rigmarole, those Greek words mean much, much, much more and much, much more than that. Now, you can look those up for yourself if you like, but they mean how much, much, much more shall we be saved from God's wrath through him? Now, you say, well, that's because now we're saved, we're perfect. Well, if we were perfect now that we were saved, when we know that's not true, but why would we need to be saved after we're born again and justified by his blood? Why would we need to be saved from God's wrath through him? Because we know that we have a spirit, a soul, and a body, and our inner man, our spirit, is born again. That's the part of us that's justified, right? The Bible says when you get born again, you're a new person. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, toward the end of the chapter, okay? So we know we're a new person, but our body isn't new, because we look the same. Our mind didn't forget everything, so our mind isn't just automatically new, right? We renew our mind. We crucify our flesh, and we walk with God. For if while we were yet God's enemies, before we were saved, at that time we were reconciled to him through the death of his son, well, how much more, again, much, 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 much more, having been reconciled, having been saved, shall we be saved by his life?